take a moment to acknowledge and recognize that today we stand on the lands once called Wicca-Wiccoing or Wiccaco by the tribe and all the tribes of the Lenape, a name once known widely across these lands. Wiccaco started at the banks of what is now called the Delaware River and extended west to what is now called the Schuylkill River.
I am Meredith Marshall, a tribal member of the Nanticoke Lenni Lenape tribal nation of New Jersey, and we are having this press conference to ensure that our ancestors know that we are offering our best to future generations. I personally signed a letter to the Orphans Court and the Board of Trustees for the University of Penn, informing them under the law of the United States. We also informed them of very specific international laws regarding Indigenous people. Instead of respecting our rights, they chose to ignore us and continue to release statements and make decisions about our ancestors' human remains. Those are not your ancestors' remains. We are Indigenous. We were the first here. We will not stop until our ancestors and these lands are respected. Thank you.
I am Penelope Jordan Giles. I am an Indian. I was born in 1960. My mother told me we were Indians, Blackfoot on my mother's father's side, and that our family on her mother and father's side were Indians from here. That is Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Virginia. My father was of free African and Bahamian descent, and based on his oral history, he was not descended from African slaves, but freemen of means. I have concluded that my father was a Moor, born here. His name was Abraham Jordan. Long story short, I am indigenous of these lands through my mother and her line, and I believe that I am connected to Africa via my father's line. I have always been intrigued by my family, especially on my mother's side. Our copper tone and hair texture, Ethiopian features, set us apart from many of our friends and neighbors. It was not something that we could even explain, except to say, it is the Indian in me. There were songs and food dishes that my mother learned from her aunts in Maryland. And on Halloween, it was a tradition to wear outfits with fringe. My mother and older sister would make costumes for themselves and all the children. It was the only time of year we could be Indians or ourselves. At funerals or festive occasions like family reunions and get-togethers on my mother's side, my cousins would do an Indian call that would express joy or sorrow. So how do I feel today, knowing that my lineage, culture, language, history, and the planet has been obliterated by colonization? Truly, I have no words. I have no words to describe the depths of my sadness and the indignation for the unpunished crimes committed against my ancestors, and which in many ways continue to be committed on the current descendants of indigenous copper-colored races of the Americas by the descendants of the colonizers or the elite. As MLK tried to tell us by using the word Negro, to refer to us so many times in his speeches, lectures, etc., that we are the true people of these lands are in fact exiled in our own land. Apologies. and that we are indeed exiled in our own lands. It is time for all the truth to be known and for equity to be restored to the unrecognized indigenous people here in America, in particular here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the birthplace of the United States of America.
I come here and participate as an ally. My family originates in Germantown, and we are coming to about 300 years here in Pennsylvania. It is my belief and my understanding that the original people that were here were a major influence for my people establishing themselves here. We originate from one of the original peace churches in America, and our people came here for religious freedom and to escape persecution for believing that war is not okay and that violence is never the answer. I would like to give thanks to all of the First Nation people that are here, especially those of Lenape descent who have maintained connection to the land we live upon together now. May we recognize the lineage and wisdom passed down through your generations and why this land is so sacred. Whether it is along Moy-Mensing or Passion to the floodplains of South Philly and beyond, or along Frankfurt, back to Shakamatson where the kings met, Philadelphia was the place conflicts were resolved. I believe that is a result of how the land nurtured the people that knew this land the longest. My children and I had the honor of being raised along the banks of the Wissahickon, nurtured by the rainforest that continues to nourish the life that thrives within it. If we think about the reason and the importance of Philadelphia, it starts way back in front of Barren Hills, where the ridge line begins to allow the last piece of Pangea, all the way from Chestnut Hill, all the way down to where the Delaware meets the Schuylkill. This land is original earth. The energy that our Mother Earth provides for us still is established and runs through us, even from the water that we drink every day. Our ancestors were allowed to eat of the land at their community farm, at what is now Kitchens Lane. They were a part of the Church of the Brethren, and the connection to the land was the way that we nourished our spirits and our souls and allowed us to share connection with all the people that were here. Coming here was with a promise to be able to commune with the original people in positive and connected ways. Our original grandfather migrated further west to work the land, but the desire to live in alliance and respectfully has been passed on even to this day. In time of violent contradiction, let us come back to show respect to the land we live upon, this original peace that nourishes, clothes, and shelters us. May the medicine of the nettle, cedar, and mugwort continue to cleanse and strengthen our spirits and guide us to our lives, guide us to our best lives, connected and respectful. May the minerals that align our nervous systems with the nurturing electric nature of the crystals we walk upon and upon every day. May it be either the self-reflective nature of mica that reflects the light that pours upon us every day, the self-cleansing aspects of garnet or kyanite that transmute any negative energy into something positive. Let the land guide our healing and connect us in ways without the need for more effort. May we be grounded with the frequency of black tourmaline and bask in the warmth that once was brought to us by the pole that was the ancient forest before humans even arrived. May the spirit of the old growth trees return to us with their trunks larger than houses before Europeans appeared. May their roots and may the roots of all our ancestors accept our connection to each other and follow the guidance of the elders to seek guidance instead of violence. A year this past April, my son and I had the opportunity of traveling to Pittsburgh, where a community on the west side of the Allegheny River was able to do something in a very meaningful way. They organized themselves to reestablish the sacredness of a mound that rose high above their community, on a hillside that was desecrated with a stone quarry in the front of it. They organized and managed to return the original elders to this mound in a sacred manner with the help of the Seneca people that live just close by. It is my hope, and it would be an extraordinary feat to do this here, to restore the sanctity of the sacred sites of Philadelphia in a sacred way. And it is my hope that the ears of those that are holding these original people away from where they are meant to be, that they hear us and they allow those ancient ancestors to be brought to where they should be, where they should be allowed to rest. And then I hope we continue to move on.
For countless generations, our ancestors cared for and became the stewards of these lands, existing in harmony with the environment. As times progressed, our not so distant ancestors battled against changing times brought on by colonization. Since that time, the indigenous peoples of these lands have survived and witnessed the genocidal acts perfected on our people, exported across the world. Even today, we the people are asking governments of the world to stop the genocidal acts against peoples on multiple continents. We are here to inform the state of Pennsylvania, the city of Philadelphia, the Orphans Court, and the trustees of the University of Pennsylvania, and others, that genocide does not just take place during direct actions, but it also takes place during indirect actions. Since the organizing of the Department of Interior and the BIA, which inherited the so-called Indian problem from the War Department, the Bureau of Indian Affairs has directly and indirectly established the laws, procedures, and policies on anything and everything Native American, including who's able to be identified as Indian. Today, the state of Pennsylvania does not acknowledge one indigenous group or tribe. As a result, the city of Philadelphia is able to dismiss reputable indigenous organizations within its borders and instead collaborate with the Indians more than 2,000 miles away. The Orphans Court's inaction, which is allowing the university to make decisions without the consultation from indigenous peoples of the region, is again an action resulting in the violation of our rights. This is a public notice. We are here. We are indigenous. We will always acknowledge our ancestors, and we demand respect for our lands. You will hear from us again soon. Thank you.